Hey guys, how's it going? Justin here with Practically Squared. Welcome back to the channel. So one of my favorite things about the precision rifle world is just all the cool gadgets and different pieces of gear. And it's always fun to talk and learn and watch videos on different gear. And what I wanted to bring you guys today was just a simple video going over where my PRS rifle is for the 2024 season. I've made some changes. If you guys seen some of my videos late in 2023, a lot of the rifle is pretty much the same. I've made some minor little changes that we'll talk about. But I felt like it would just be a cool little thing to give you guys a refresher, kind of where I'm at. And also I could give you guys some thoughts and feelings having run this gear in a bunch of matches at this point. So without further ado, let's just kind of go over it piece by piece and we'll work from the tip to the butt. So out at the tip here, I have an Ace muzzle brake. So this is the Ace brake that Austin Orgain and Clay Blackheader from Oklahoma made. It's kind of designed around your BR Dasher cartridges, and it's kind of designed to minimize concussion on the shooter. One of the things that I struggle with as a shooter, being a guy that's a big suppressor guy, if you guys are a fan of my channel, you guys know that. Going to the PRS world, I didn't want to run a suppressor because the length, having to worry about a cover and mirage and it coming loose and all the different things associated with suppressor, not to mention the recoil impulse. I wanted to run a brake. I ran the Area 419 Hellfire match brake, and that was a really good brake. It just puts a lot of concussion on the shooter. And for a Dasher BR based cartridge, which is what I run, we'll talk more in a minute, I felt like I wanted to maybe give up a little bit of that recoil and maybe gain a little bit less concussion on me. And doing research, the Ace brake was what a lot of people recommended. I got to try one out and I bought one and I'm pretty excited. I've ran this brake in one 2-day Pro Series match and 3 one-day regional matches, as well as done a ton of practice with it over the off season. I just put it on at the beginning of this year. And so far, I'm pretty impressed with it. It doesn't do as good of a job, I feel like, as maybe my 419 brake did, but it does a plenty adequate job for a BR Dasher. I see 95% of my shots, I would say, whenever I'm doing, my proper fundamentals and everything like that, which there's definitely room for improvement there. But I feel like it's a really good brake, and if you're worried about concussion, I feel like it's probably the one to get. Moving back, let's take a minute to talk about the barrel and the cartridge. So this is actually a Bartlein Heavy Varmint profile barrel. It's a 5R rifle barrel, and it's chambered by Ryan Beck over at Basecamp Customs. Ryan did my first barrel, and he did this barrel, and Ryan is a really good gunsmith, and he's a really good dude. I've become friends with the guy, and Ryan's a solid shooter and a pretty damn good gunsmith, and I love supporting local companies that support the matches that I shoot. So going with Ryan was kind of a no-brainer as a buddy and stuff like that, and I had him go ahead and chamber it in 6 Dasher. So last year, I ran 6BR, and 6BR is a really good cartridge. There's nothing wrong with 6BR, but I wanted to run my BR, a little bit faster. And kind of what I found was that you can run into issues when you run a BR at like 2830, 2840. That's kind of pushing a BR. So I decided this year to jump to Dasher just to give myself a little bit more flexibility. If I want to run it up in the 29s, I could run it up in the 29s. If I want to run it in that 2850, I could run it in the 2850. What's kind of ironic and funny is where I've really settled at right now is running my Dasher at 2800. So I'm running a Dasher pretty much at BR speeds, but I'm running the heavier Burger bullets. So I'm running Burger hybrids, and I'm going slow, but I'm able to see all the shots, and it is just silly consistent. I'm gonna roll up some targets here that I shot at 700 yards, and 700 yards, your wind is gonna throw you left and right. So really, I mainly focus on that vertical, and you'll see the vertical in these groups are just incredible. This gun is an absolute hammer. Dasher, I mean, I liked BR, but man, Dasher, if you're building a PRS rig and you're not building it in Dasher, I'd question it. Like, Dasher is probably the go-to, especially if you're an East Coast guy like myself. Moving back, let's talk about the action. So I'm running an Impact Precision 737 action. The Precision Rifle blog, Kyle Zant over there, he put out a post talking about the most popular actions in the top 100 in the PRS. And Impacts by far dominate the PRS, not only in the top 100, but just at the local regional club level. You're going to see a ton of Impacts out there for good reason. They're actions that are proven. They won, 5 golden bullets in a row or something like that. They're plenty capable actions, really good. They're going to run in your dirt. They're going to run in the debris. They're going to be a field ready action. The 90-degree bolt throw, it's going to be smoother on close, smoother on open, so you're going to disturb your sight picture less. Impact does have a 75-degree bolt that they just came out with, and I'm really excited to try it. I was supposed to play with Ken Sanoski's the other day, but we got kind of busy in matches and I forgot to ask him. But yeah, I'm curious to check out the 75-degree bolt that Impact came out with. It's just going to drop in, replace your bolt. But so far, I'm absolutely in love with the Impact action. I've had this from the get-go, and it's something that's not changing. If I were to buy another action, Impact, Defiance, Lone Peak, those are the three that I would probably buy. But Impact is awesome, right? So we'll kind of go, I guess we'll go down, or well, I guess we'll talk about the scope. So talking about the scope, I'm running a Leupold Mark V 7-35 with the PR2. Now, one thing I do have to say about the Leupold Mark V, it is a really good scope, especially for the price point. They're around $2,000, give or take. And the PR2 reticle is probably by far my favorite reticle I've ever looked through for PRS. It has all the information you need. It isn't overly cluttered. And the 2.5 marks are going to give you a more open sight picture. So you're able to see more stuff. Whereas with a 2/10 reticle, you have extra lines in there and it gets a little bit more clouded and gets a little bit more cluttery in there. So I really like the reticle and the Leupold. I do have to be completely transparent and honest with you guys. I did recently do a tracking test and I found that this was ever so slightly off. Not a super big deal, but it was something that I had to input in my Kestrel, the elevation correction factor for it. And now it's lining up great. It wasn't off by much, but it was off by enough that if you're trying to shoot 1 MOA targets and you're traveling around the country doing matches, you're going to occasionally miss a 1 MOA target if you're not completely figured out with your elevation correction factor. So it doesn't matter what scope you buy, Leupold, Night Force, Zeiss, Tangent Theta, whatever, you should definitely do a tracking test. And I kind of learned that the hard way. And I've had buddies with other brand scopes that have had similar issues too. So it's not just a Leupold thing. The next thing I want to talk about is the MDT LRA Send It level. So the Send It level is something that I feel is an absolute must-have. If you're not running a Send It level, it's something you should strongly look into. I know there's some guys out there, like Ryan Beck, for example, he hates the Send It level because it's just flashing in your face. But once you get used to it and you train with it, I really enjoy it. Some guys will run the Brandt-built ocular housing. I've played around with that, and I think it's a good option. But what I like about the Send It is I like to set it up off to the left, and I like to just pick it up in my peripheral vision. So while I'm focused downrange, I can kind of pick up through my peripheral those colors, and I'm staying focused downrange. I'm reading conditions while I'm leveling my rifle, and I'm kind of refining my wing call. And, whenever I ran the Brandt-built, I felt like I kind of more had to focus maybe with my right eye. And what happened there was I would kind of take focus off of the target. So I kind of just prefer not running the Brandt-built. I prefer just leaving it set up to the side. I've ran it a lot horizontal, and then now I'm running it vertical. I don't think there's much of a difference. I would say I probably prefer it horizontal. The downside with horizontal is it doesn't fit in cases. Like I run a Pelican 1750 case, and whenever you have it horizontal, it fits super tight in the case, and I felt like it was going to break this knob off. So I just switched it to vertical, and I'm just kind of going to work with it. It's not bad, and it's going to prevent it from getting broke, which is most important. Like if this thing goes down, I have a backup level built into my mount, which we'll talk about here in a minute, but I would prefer it not to go down, so I want to take care of it, right? So we talked about the scope. Let's talk about that mount. So I'm running the Hawkins Precision. This is their one-piece scope mount. It has the diving board, the bubble level kind of included. One of the things that really kind of sold me on the Hawkins mount is I had another mount that I had an issue with. It ended up having a minor fracture in it, and it was just a warranty issue. That stuff happens as well. But I was doing research on mounts, and I really wanted to get the Gray Ops one, but the Hawkins mount, given the features and given the price and all that it comes with, $340 with a diving board and a level, it's kind of tough to beat. Plus, I was talking to some guys like Kel Harmon, who won the Golden Bullet this past year, and he was telling me he likes to take his scope off whenever he flies. And he likes the Hawkins because with these bolts on the side here, even though some people might think they're ugly, what they allow it to do is they help it just not strip out over, taking the scope off and on, off and on, off and on. And that's one of the things that really kind of sold me on it. He said it returns to zero pretty well, and it seems like a pretty well-built scope, and a lot of the top shooters were running it, so that's why I decided to pick it up. Given the value, given the price, given all the things that I heard, I felt like it was worth a try, right? So Hawkins Precision mount. Now we'll kind of drop down. Let's talk about the chassis. So I've ran 4 different chassis. Well, I guess 5, but I've owned 4 different chassis. in my PRS time. I started out with an MPA Matrix, then I went to an ACC, then I won a Matrix Pro, so I ran that for a little bit, and now I have the ACC Elite. Also, in one match, I had my rifle go down. Buddy loaned me his rifle. It had a BA comp, and I ran that in 10 stages of a 2-day Pro Series match. And so I have experience with a couple different chassis. I've got to play around with some stuff. And honestly, for me and my preferences, the ACC Elite is kind of where it's at. I think the Matrix and the Matrix Pro, if you were to blend those two, get a Matrix forend with a Matrix Pro butt end, that would be a really damn good option as well. But the ACC is just a phenomenal chassis. I like the narrow forend. I like how long it is. I like the ability to just accept standard M-LOK weights. All my weights that I had for my original ACC, I just tossed in here. And it feels pretty good. The original ACC had a little bit of flex in the forend here if you didn't have the weights. They stiffened it up. I felt like there was a little bit of twang in the original ACC. The ACC Elite with this connector and the way they redesigned the buttstock, I don't really notice much, if any, twang in it. It's really good. The only minor gripe I have with the ACC Elite is I feel like the cheek piece is too high, so I put 5x5 precision. I'm not sure if he's selling these or anything, but Chad hooked me up with one of his flush fit cheek pads here, and then he also hooked me up with one of his bag riders for the bottom, and I really enjoy running both of those. Other than that, the only other thing we really have to talk about is the trigger. So this year I switched triggers a little bit. So I was running a Bix Nandy Tac Sport 2-stage, the original Tac Sport, not the Pro. And it was a good trigger, but I felt like sometimes I got in a hurry. I feel like I'm more towards the fast end of shooters. I'm not Francis Cologne by any means, but I like to go fast. I like to get in a rhythm, and I like to just go fast and smooth and steady. And what I found was sometimes I get in a rush and I pull through my 2-stage, especially if it was cold out. So I decided to experiment with going to a single stage trigger, and I bought the Bix Nandy Tac Sport Pro X, the single stage, and I decided since I was going to a single stage, I'd try out their Gator grip. That way I could maybe feel that trigger a little bit better in the cold weather. I've only ran this in one match so far, and I enjoy it. I'm pretty happy, and I'm not going to change it or anything like that. I'm probably going to run this, permanently. So pretty good. The last thing we have to talk about is going to be these mags. So this is the new Gray Ops AW mag. They built this specifically for Dasher BRA based cartridges. It's an AW mag, which is double stack, double feed. We'll have a full video coming out on this in the future. Gray Ops has a video if you want to check that out. They did a really good job on it. But this is a 12-round AW mag. The cool thing about AW mags is it's feeding from the left or the right side. So you only have one feed lip holding that piece of ammunition in. So your coefficient of friction is a lot less. So whenever you close that bolt, it's just exponentially smoother with an AW mag. They're just butter smooth. Also, the compactness of this, you're going to be able to get on props and not have your mag bottoming out or binding on props. So it's just really nice. Plus, it actually holds 13, a baker's dozen. So I always like to load one extra round, like on a 10-round stage, I'll load 11 in case, God forbid, you have a dud primer or, you build a position, close your bolt and realize you're in the wrong position and got to eject that, right? So what's nice is being that it holds 13 on those 12-round stages, I can put a 13th in there just to give myself that added peace of mind. So it's an awesome mag. It's not cheap by any means, but it's about, it is by far the highest quality mag that I've ever seen or had or played with. So I guess the only other things we could talk about, I keep kind of forgetting stuff. The Gray Ops M-LOK external weights, they're awesome. And then I'm running an MDT SkyPod. This is the double pull SkyPod. I really, really like the double pull SkyPod. I have the Gray Ops adapter, and then I have an Area 419 throw lever on here for the QD mount. So that's the bipod I'm running. I do carry a Harris in my pack. There's certain stages where I really like running a Harris, but the SkyPod's probably my primary bipod. And so far, I'm really impressed with it. So as far as the rifle build goes, all this stuff pretty much is going to be staying the same. Like, I'm pretty set in what I like at this point. Like, the ace brake's awesome. The barrel, 6 dashers, awesome. Obviously, I'm going to end up changing barrels whenever I wear this out. This barrel probably has right around, give or take, 900 rounds on it so far. But I got a lot of matches coming up. So I'm sure, I'll go through barrels, but we'll see there. But the only thing that I would maybe consider changing is I'd like to try out that Impact 75-degree bolt and just see how it is and maybe experiment with something like that. But outside of that, the ACC Elite, I'm sad in my ways with that. The Impact Action, absolutely love it. The Leopold Mark V, I love it. I don't think there's a better option out on the market right now. I like Night Force, but they don't have a reticle that I'm in love with. Z comps are really expensive, and I feel like the Leopold isn't costing me any points, and it's a really damn good scope, American made, and Leopold supports the PRS, which is something that's very important to me as well. So guys, if you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to reach out. One of the things about PRS that kind of intimidated me as a new shooter before I got in was just all the gear is so expensive. So you're afraid to buy something and not, know what you're getting into, and maybe your preference isn't there or whatever. But if you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to shoot me a message. Feel free to ask. I'm on Instagram at Practically Squared on Instagram. I have an email that I always put in the description. Feel free to reach out with any of that stuff. A lot of PRS guys, as excited as you are to ask them about their gear, they're more excited to tell you about it, right? We spend a lot of money on this stuff. So guys are excited to talk about it as I am making this video. So guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for, supporting the channel. All the likes, all the subscribes, all the comments help me encourage to make more videos. So guys, as always, remember to train hard, shoot fast, and most importantly, be safe. God bless.